Good evening, boxing family, and welcome to Enter the Ring Live for Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, with your three favorite hosts, Mighty Mike,
AJ Rage,
and Eric the Red.
What's up, guys?
What's up, brother? How you doing, guys?
Good.
It's another day.
Back at it.
Back at it.
Hey, we've stayed pretty frequent, man.
Yeah, we had we took Sunday off. We had I had some personal stuff to take care of. But we're back. Obviously, we're going to talk today about the action that took place this past weekend. Yep. But before we get into that, how's everybody doing? AJ, I know you got some kind of crazy electrical storm going on where you live, right?
Yeah, I tell you, man, out here it's been kind of nuts, man. I mean,
it's weird.
I have this meter that's in my studio because as most people out there probably know, myself, my brother Mike, and my brother Eric, we're all musicians, and what happens is that it'll tell me if I have too much, electrical,
like the electromagnetic field is like certain.
Yeah, because it'll basically or if I have too much moisture.
Get out of California.
It'll ruin my equipment, and I have processors that are worth a lot of money. But long story short, I got a thing just a little while ago because this weird storm came in. These heavy drops came down. Everything got black just out of the blue. I literally just got through doing what I was doing outside, so I'm getting ready to set up for the show, and I'm hustling around trying to get all of my stuff that I don't want to get wet underneath my patio real fast. Mm-hmm. It's just, and then I had Black Hawk helicopters flying over my house yesterday in droves, which is just ridiculous. I've never seen that. I mean, last time I saw that was when I was in Elmendorf, Alaska.
They're going to start spraying the vaccine all over everybody.
Oh, dude, it was weird, bro.
Yeah, and I'm about 15, 17 miles north of you towards the foothills. And it's one side of the sky looks dark and there's heavy raindrops, and the other side is like sunny. It's just, it's pretty strange. I guess it's strange for California. It's not so strange for the rest of the country. I mean, Texas and places like that get these kind of weird.
It doesn't look real though.
Yeah, it doesn't look real. Yeah,
it reminds me when your wife used to work for Paramount. And we used to go there to the sets, and we used to look how they would have the one side of the set. It looked like an ocean storm, and down the other side they have like a beach scene or something.
Yeah,
it's like that. You got one side of my thing looks perfectly clear, and the other side looks like it's hell.
It's all trick photography.
Yep.
Yeah, but I actually I actually could look southbound from the front of my property. I could see southbound unobstructed where you're at, and way off in the distance, right about where you're at, I just see these dark. Black.
Yeah, well, that's why I said it, because I know you got that metal roof, and I didn't want you to do anything. But hey, Eric, what's going on out there in Oregon, man?
Just been busy, man. Just been busy, just trying to get the business up and going, and it's working for free. You know what I mean? Right now, it's just getting everything going. So
most people who don't own businesses have no idea what that means.
Just keep doing, hey, bro. Just keep doing what you're doing, bro.
It's starting to pick up. I mean, it's starting to pick up. Thank God.
You getting some bookings for the weekends and stuff?
Yeah, we're starting to get some. I believe it was, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday. One of those nights, we actually had 3 bookings for
a Wednesday. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and that was the most bookings during the week that we've had since we were able to open back up. So,
are you still restricted on your opening?
Yes, we are. We can only have 6 people in a room.
What is the mindset of people in the Pacific Northwest? Are they eager to get out, or are they scaredy cats?
Okay, so we have the 2 extremes. We got of course the ones that will never go anywhere are still stuck in their house, not doing anything. But the ones that are actually going out, for example, everybody that's gone to my escape room, they come in, and of course I don't wear a mask. I'll be point blank. I don't care what anybody or the government or anybody else says.
I actually like to see some people wear masks, dude. I'd much rather see them wear masks than see their face. Believe me.
So anyway, but people don't really mind it. I'll explain to them, hey, I do suffer a little bit of PTSD, and it makes me angry, and so I don't want to be angry, so I'm not going to wear a mask, and everybody understands that. But almost every group, I mean, with the exception of one person in one group, almost every group says right there in the lobby, "Do we have to keep these on?" I'm not wearing one. You don't have to wear it if you don't want to. I mean, we social distance, and we got hand sanitizer everywhere, and everything's clean.
People are adults, man. Let them make the decisions.
Let them make, exactly. So, I mean, literally, people are just like, oh, good, I can breathe.
I was talking to Mike earlier today, and then I'm going to talk about a post that we just got right now on our chat from someone called UT's Mary Jane Farm. And they were asking what kind of business that you run. They know you, Mike, obviously, because LOL, Mike, don't play like that. So I don't know. Somebody who obviously
on the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't see anything.
It's on our channel on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, the thing is that this doctor made a brilliant analysis of what he said. He just basically said he doesn't understand the push for everybody to be vaccinated, because a person who decides to be non-vaccinated, or how I like to call them, like to label them anti-vaxxers, only puts himself at risk and not the people that are vaccinated. So they don't understand this push to have everybody vaccinated, but that's a whole other story.
It's already proven the vaccine's not going to prevent you from getting anything.
It's scary.
Yep.
It's Gary Haygood.
Oh, Gary Haygood. Oh my God. Blast in the past. I heard that 3 people that were vaccinated just this past week were all reinfected in Hawaii. And these were all people that had passed the, what is it? I guess there's,
test.
Well, I guess there, once you get the vaccine, there's still a couple of weeks before, it's considered completely effective or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, that's like I said, we can go on for a whole hour about that.
Hey, real quick before we jump into that subject we're going to talk about today, it's kind of good to see something like this, because I've seen Gary. People don't know, but we grew up around this gentleman, him and his brother.
Yeah.
Since we were kids, like that picture that we have on our Facebook, these 3 little knuckleheads wearing the same type of shirt, just different colors and stuff.
That's how long we've known this.
Yeah. And it's just really good to see Gary. He's got a beautiful family, and I know he's staying healthy and stuff like this. It's just,
and he loves Princess Leia.
Yeah, he's a big Star Wars fan. He's one of the Rolling Heights boys like us. We were all together.
I got a pretty good collection too, Gary. You can see my wall. I got an entire wall of Star Wars.
But hey, from the Mendiola brothers to Gary Haygood and his family, and his brother and everybody. Hey, say.
Miss you, brother. Miss you, brother. It's been too long, man. I'd love to see you, man.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it, Mike. Let's do it, man.
The topic at hand for today, we're gonna touch on overall theme for today's show is the welterweight division in 2021. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the welterweight showdown that took place this past weekend in Fort Worth, Texas, on the Zone. Virgil Ortiz stepping up to what I feel is his best opponent at 147. And Maurice Hooker, he wins. Ortiz wins via 7th round TKO when it looked like Hooker hurt his hand, and since the fight, apparently he did break his hand. Apparently there is a break in his hand, and he's going to be out of the ring for about 2 months, no training for about 2 months before he can get back in, get back to work. But I read that Golden Boy has plans for Hooker, because they were thoroughly impressed with the effort he put forth. What do you guys think about that fight? To start with you, Eric. What do you think?
Okay. Well, good fight. A good test for Virgil Ortiz also. But the thing about Hooker is what he even said after the fight, that he heard the crack in his hand.
Yeah.
When you're fighting and you hear the crack, something's really bad.
Yeah.
So he's smart and going down when he did. It's not like he got knocked out. He went down. You know what I mean? Because of the pain. So
the further damage he could have inflicted on himself could have been, career threatening.
Exactly.
Hands are very, AJ, this, some of the fighters over at the gym. I know that so many times guys have hand issues, wrist issues, elbow issues they take. We have a specialist at the gym. He's a son of the late Sugar Ramos, and he's a master with hands. And what he does is he massages and he does different kinds of therapies, because if your hands aren't right, you could be the best fighter in the world, but if your hands aren't right, man, it sidelines you.
That was one of my big issues when I was.
Hold on, guys. Yeah, Mom.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're
doing the podcast. Mom. I gotta get off the phone though.
All right, you're gonna have to mute him really quick, AJ.
Okay.
So
real quick, what I was saying,
AJ, what's your take on the fight, Eric?
I tell you, I was impressed with Virgil. He didn't do anything that I didn't expect him to do. He fought the fight that he's fought against so many others. It kind of reminded me a lot of the fight when he fought against Orozco. But one thing I did kind of notice, I mean, you got to take your hat off to Maurice Hooker. His first time at 147 pounds, you know, to walk in there against a guy that's been solid and is natural at that weight. I think Maurice once again made that mistake of you know, it was almost like he started to make his presence felt a bit when he was working the body and a few things, and it looked like maybe you could see it on Virgil Ortiz's face. I mean, he was the worse for wear. But what really got me was that Maurice Hooker, and like I said before in his conversation that they were talking about with Terrence Crawford, he's a real tough guy. He's not just a boxer. So the fire in him lit up
at the end of the fight.
He got into that exchange that he shouldn't have done. That the hand injury was absolutely legitimate. I actually saw a picture that they showed shortly after. It was pretty gross test. I mean,
it looked pretty swollen. It looked pretty swollen. So,
but I think Maurice Hooker did a really good job. I don't think he should keep his head down. Let's be honest. I know Robert Garcia and a lot of other people are trying to say that, you know, it was just a matter of time. I don't agree. I think Maurice Hooker was still very much in this fight. I think his experience was starting to show a bit. I think if he would have, his trainer was trying to get him to get back to the body and stuff right before he suffered the hand injury and stuff. It could have been a different outcome, but I'm not taking nothing away from Virgil Ortiz. A great win for Ortiz.
Yeah. My take on the fight is this. I had the fight even after 4 rounds. Maurice Hooker showed me something that not a lot of guys were willing to do, standing there and trade with Virgil Ortiz. He stood there and he traded and at times got the better of Ortiz. Yeah. And like you said, AJ, the proof was in the pudding. Ortiz's face was a mess. Ortiz's face was busted up. He didn't get cut, but he was lumped up, red, marked up all over his forehead, all over his eyes. And I think you said this after the fight. We talked that they're really going to have to do something to work on his defense. I remember for so long, for the last couple of years, I see a lot of the haters talking about, well, Jaime Munguia gets hit too much. He gets hit too easy. He gets this. At no point have I ever seen Jaime look even remotely as bad as Virgil Ortiz did. Virgil Ortiz's face was a crimson mask.
The worst
and that was right after the fight. Can you imagine what it looks like a day or two later, half a day later, when those bruises start to come to the surface? So, you know, I want to see consistency. You know, it's almost like nobody wants to badmouth Robert Garcia. Where was everybody? Because everybody loved to jump on Robert Alcazar. Why he needs to teach him defense, blah, 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 like he taught Oscar, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes fighters just take punches. I'm quite sure Robert Garcia works with Virgil Ortiz on head movement and this and that, but sometimes some fighters just take punches. You can do everything in the world, everything under the sun in the ring, in training. But when the fight starts, sometimes you just kind of revert back to, hey, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to trade. And he keeps his guard high. But Maurice Hooker hit him with a lot of shots, a lot of body shots.
Yeah. He was starting to get his presence felt. But there was another thing.
After 4 rounds, even the announcer said it. Hey, the tide is kind of starting to turn here a little bit. Like Hooker was coming on around 3 and 4.
If you guys noticed this though too, and in your evaluation after the fight, one of the key things that I looked at, and we'll talk about it afterwards, at the choice of opponent and where they were prior. But the thing before that was Virgil Ortiz hit Maurice Hooker with some big shots, and let's be honest, Maurice Hooker never really hurt him, or even, you know. So you have to look and say, does Virgil have the kind of power? Because let's be honest, Ramirez showed in his punch, it was more debilitating when he landed on Hooker than Virgil Ortiz. So is that power a little overrated?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better term, yeah, you could say his power is overrated. If you look at his record, 16-0 with 60 knockouts, now 17-0 with 17 knockouts. A lot of those knockouts were against, you know, less than stellar competition, or guys like you mentioned to me earlier, AJ, guys coming up in weight, not fighting at the natural weight.
His two biggest victories, Orozco and Herrera Hooker are both guys that were not natural at 147 pounds that moved up.
They were, new to 147. So, you know, this, like you said, AJ, is not a knock on Virgil. Virgil's going to fight. And you know what? The fact that he's daring to be great with calling out Terrence Crawford after the fight, I think he's kind of from a position of comfort, because there's no way on God's green earth Oscar De La Hoya will make that fight anytime soon. It just won't happen. It just won't happen. But you know, if he really is sincere in his intentions and his daring to be great, I'll fight anybody. Doesn't matter if I'm an underdog or not ready or whatever. I'll fight anybody. I gotta believe the kid would fight anybody, because you know he's a fighter. Virgil's a fighter. You know.
Well, yeah, but this goes back to what Johnny was telling us. Nobody at this level is scared of anybody. If the opportunity is there, they're going to jump on it. I mean, if you took one of Virgil Ortiz's victims, Sammy Vargas, and told him, "Hey, Sammy, we're going to let you fight Terrence Crawford in 2 months," you think Sammy Vargas is going to turn that fight down? Absolutely not. He's going to take the fight. Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't make Virgil a better fighter because he's willing and he's going to call out people. I think he's just trying to get his name out there in the conversations, knowing that if they're going to talk about Spence, Crawford, Thurman, whatever, his name is going to come up because he's thrown that challenge out there and stuff. But there's a lot of guys out there that throw challenges or whatever. Me, myself, personally, like I said, I'm not a huge Terrence Crawford fan. I actually had a lot of respect for Terrence for the fact that he showed up and supported his stablemate in Maurice Hooker, because I'm going to go back to something I didn't really get to talk about on air. There was a interview on DAZN with Virgil Ortiz, and they were talking about the late Marvin Hagler and his best memories. He brought up the one that so many people have, Tommy Hearns. I mean, everybody got that. It's like when
that's the one,
When you were born, they gave you a certain color sock, a blanket, a beanie, and a copy of Tommy.
Yeah, it made you watch the first round.
Yeah, exactly. But going deeper into the conversation, and this is with Chris Mannix, the guy who knows dick about boxing. Virgil Ortiz said something that really disturbed me. And he said, well, I don't watch a lot of boxing. I'm not really a boxing fan. And I thought to myself, and I remember a long time ago, there was a conversation with the trainer Emmanuel Stewart. And Emmanuel Stewart had talked about a fighter at the time that was fighting a guy named Troy Dorsey. I don't know if you remember a guy named Troy.
Yeah, Troy Dorsey. Yeah, the karate guy. He fought.
Troy Dorsey was another guy who wasn't really in love with boxing. He just did it because he was a tough guy, and that was going to be his downfall. Because in the trenches, at some point, you got to remember why you became a boxer in the first place. What about the sport was so appealing that made you want to be a part of this sport? Virgil Ortiz, on the other hand, didn't get into boxing because he loved boxing. He got into boxing because he's a competitive young man and he likes to win. He's a tough guy, whatever. But that's what I'm saying. A guy like Terrence Crawford shows he's a true boxing lover. He loves the sport. His choices and opponents are questionable. But at the end of the day, when Virgil Ortiz is in a fight against a guy that's a little bit more on the more level ground, let's say Maurice Hooker, one of these other guys up there, let's say Sean Porter, who absolutely eats, breathes, and shits boxing. Okay. What happens when you're in those trenches, when you're in that quicksand? Is Virgil Ortiz going to be able to elevate himself to another spot? I don't think so, because that's going to be his downfall.
Well, AJ, we I think on Saturday night, you and I talked briefly, and we brought up, I think, Victor Ortiz. And that one fight where Victor Ortiz said, man, I don't love this sport and I don't need to be getting beaten up like this. And then in some of his tougher fights, he kind of folded. He kind of took the easy way out. And I don't want to maybe say easy because there's nothing easy about being a professional boxer. But, you're right. I mean, is he reminiscent a little bit of Ortiz or Victor Ortiz? Golden boy, flashy, knocking people out strong, but not really in love with the sport. In a couple of years, are we going to be looking back at Virgil Ortiz going, he just was like the next coming, a decade later of Victor Ortiz. And we might be prophetic right now in what we're saying, because we might come back here 2-3 years from now and go like, remember that show we did way back in 2021 where we talked about that? He better fall in love with the sport because, he
really does. And I don't want to jump to Eric, get Eric's take on it. But the one thing, like I said, I mean, the difference I see between Victor Ortiz and Virgil Ortiz, both of them not big lovers of the sport of boxing, but Victor wasn't really a guy to really call people out. Where Virgil lately, to kind of put that message out there of Terrence Crawford or whatever. Let's be honest, okay? Virgil's a tough kid. He's 22 years old. He's still got a lot of growing.
He's young,
He's still got a lot of maturity. He's still got a lot to learn. Robert Garcia knows. I don't care what he says. Robert Garcia is making it look like he feels that Virgil has a legitimate chance. Virgil has absolutely no chance against Terrence Crawford, with exception to maybe a lucky punch if
landing a big punch.
But against a fighter like Errol Spence, honestly, it could be career ending. A guy like Errol Spence,
especially if you're going to stand there and take those punches like that. No head movement.
He's never really been hit. Let's be honest, Mike. He's never really been hit by a true welterweight. Wait till he gets hit by a Keith Thurman, a Ugas, even a Kavalukas. One of these guys who are natural at 147 pounds. Robert Garcia might be singing a different tune. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry about that, bro.
True.
Oh, shoot. Eric's muted for some reason. Eric, unmute.
I think.
Unmute.
You might have muted him.
Okay.
There you go.
So the weakness that I saw in his fight game was his body. he did not like those body shots.
No, he did
Hooker, when he landed those shots, you saw it physically hurt him.
Yeah, there was one round where he got hit with a body shot. I think you'd send me a message. You said he's going back now. Virgil was taking a step back.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me catch my breath,
Exactly. And so that's a weakness that hopefully, or not hopefully, but other opponents are going to be able to,
try to exploit.
Exploit that. I saw that, and it's really sad that Hooker's hand got broke, because that was becoming a really good fight.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when it kind of abruptly came to an end. I was a little disappointed, but
Yeah, like I said, if Virgil would have went out there and knocked out Maurice Hooker, flat backed him, and did it like he's done to people, maybe like how he did against Serrano and other ones, we'd be seeing a different tune. But he didn't do that. He was given a gifted opportunity, being the fact that Hooker kind of started fighting the wrong fight and suffered this freak accident. Let's be honest. Hooker is a big hitter, but he's not a big hitter for 147 pounds. No. You look at it, I could take a guy right now who's just outside the top 10, a guy who actually, in his forte is the body, in Jamal James. Jamal James, to me, would be the wrong choice for a guy like Virgil Ortiz at this stage in his career. A guy who brings experience, power, boxing. Go back and watch this fight with Ugas. That fight wasn't that wide, okay?
And Ugas is a big, strong welterweight. He looks like a junior like a junior middleweight. He looked
like a middleweight, dude. I was standing next to the guy over in Carson.
Yeah, he is a big kid for that weight. How he even gets down to 147 is beyond me. I don't know.
And put together too. Big guy that's put together.
Well, let's do this, and let's segue into talking about the welterweight division, because that's what we want to talk about. And we could take, this entirety of the show, maybe towards the end, we'll touch on something else. But let's talk about the welterweight division.
Sure. Obviously,
Terrence Crawford was there in the building. Errol Spence was in the building. They were talking to Bud Crawford. I don't remember who it was, but somebody was asking him. Errol Spence is also in the building. Blah blah blah. And Terrence Crawford more or less said, "Oh, that fight's not going to happen. I'm done. That fight ain't never going to happen." But kind of implying that Spence is running from him, whatever. But I don't know, man. I mean, we've talked about our top 10 in the division. We've talked about who we feel is the king of the division. And I don't even think it's really even up for debate. The only person that would debate or try to find flaws in Errol Spence's game would just be a Bud Crawford fan. Yeah. Because Errol Spence has the resume. He's fought the best fighters, I think, in 147. I think between him, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, these guys have all fought round robin. These guys have all fought each other. These are the best in the division. We can't say that yet about Terrence until Terrence fights one of these guys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We just can't say that yet. We just cannot say that yet.
You're right, bro. And it's starting to make itself plainly evident, the fact that Terrence Crawford is even, I think, starting to notice the fact that his ring resume is not what you would consider somebody that is spoken in the circles that he's spoken about. But everybody's so focused right now on Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, even guys like Sean Porter, obviously the insurgence of guys like Virgil Ortiz. But let's be honest, there's some guys out there right now, and I just mentioned one of them was Jamal James. Another one is you got Sergey Lipinets, but a guy that I really am high on in the welterweight division, and he's got a fight coming up here in Jaron Ennis.
Boots Ennis, yeah.
Boots Ennis, to me, has shown to be the complete package. He reminds me, if you took Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, and a little bit of, just the wildness, with Sean Porter, you just built Boots Ennis and stuff. He's a young guy.
He's a guy that's sitting right now, I think, on Box Rec. You said, what is he, way down at like number 17 or something?
Yeah, it's
which is a bit shocking to me.
Yeah,
the IBF has him on number 9.
9 in the IBF. Hey, okay, you mentioned some great names at welterweight. What about Danny Garcia? What about Manny Pacquiao? What about Jamal James? There's so many fighters at 147 that are kind of like been sitting and biding their time and doing everything expected of them, fighting, winning, looking good. Jesse's going back to 154, where I think he belongs. I don't think he belongs at 147. He just physically, he's too big. He just leaves too much in the gym to make 147. But I mean, and we said it in previous shows. We'll continue to say it. AJ, you alluded to the fact earlier that you think Terrence Crawford sees the writing on the wall, and he might be kind of ride out his contract, maybe get one more easy fight under the Top Rank banner, and then try to make the switch over to PBC. But PBC still controls the 147 division. De La Hoya, Golden Boy has Virgil. Okay. And this was their entrance of their, okay, this is our entrance in the Kentucky Derby. You know, it's a 20 horse field, but here's our guy. Okay. Well, okay, we're going to put you at a, 18-1 morning line odds because you're still unproven. They do the same thing with horses. And that's what I'm alluding to. You might be great. You might have been 3-0 at Ruidoso Downs or one of the, Turfway Park, but now you're running at Churchill Downs. Now you're at Santa Anita. Now you're at Saratoga Springs. And guess what? The competition just got higher. So you were 4-5 in that last race. Now you're 18-1 because you have to prove yourself against the best. Terrence Crawford's no different.
Yeah.
He's no different. He's got to prove himself against the best in the division. And he has yet to fight anybody, in my opinion, that's even a top 10 welterweight. That's just my opinion.
No, yeah. No, I think you nailed it, bro. And the thing is like I said, I mean, if you look at it in all retrospects, as far as what's going on in the welterweight division and stuff, I really feel that a lot of these guys are being held down in these rankings because maybe they don't have the big promotional push of the Bob Arums, the De La Hoyas, whoever it is. It's unfortunate because even Maurice Hooker, to be bounced all the way down, to 22. You got the reinsurgence, Adrian Broner. I know you looked a little shoddy, but give Broner some time. He'll get himself back to where he needs to be. You still got guys like Delorme out there and stuff. You got Josecito Lopez, came off a career best victory over John Molina and stuff. Everybody's kind of forgetting about Josecito Lopez. These are guys, that are still right there in the mix of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is right now is that there's this weird thing going on in boxing right now where it's like, you know what it reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of like when like Terrence Crawford per se. If Terrence Crawford was to move to 154 tomorrow, they would probably rank him number 1 at 154, completely ignoring guys like Tim Tszyu, the Charlos, Brian Castano, everybody. That kind of stuff's got to stop. It reminds me of the old days, like when Tiger Woods was playing golf. Every time Tiger Woods could be literally like 2 shots from like not even making the cut. And all they talked about was Tiger. They had things on Tiger, and you didn't even know at the end of the tournament that Rory McIlroy or somebody
won the tournament.
Won the tournament. It's
ridiculous. Or shot a career best.
That's how it's getting right now. Honestly.
Yeah, that's how it's getting with boxing. They're like you said, they're focusing on just a couple of people. And Errol Spence is not a guy to me. When I see Errol Spence, he's not a guy that needs to be in front of the camera.
No,
he's a Southern boy from Texas. He doesn't need to be in front of the camera. When he is in front of the camera, he's respectful, but he doesn't go out there looking for it. And where a lot of these fighters go out there and they look for it. They want to just, they want to make sure that everybody knows that they're there, that they're going to have their say. I don't know, man.
Hey, real quick. I want to get Eric's take on that. Eric, what do you think about the situation with Crawford and everything going on in welterweights?
Well, you guys summed it up pretty damn good. Quite honestly, I don't think Crawford, like you guys, he doesn't hold a candle to Errol Spence or Sean Porter for that matter. I mean, that'd be a good fight, I think, but between the two of them. So
sure.
I mean, yeah, it's all hype. And I'm tired as a boxing fan. I'm tired of all the talk. You know what? Yeah. Let's get it in the ring. Let's let your actual fighting do the talking for you. That's what Errol Spence does. You know what I mean? Like you said,
he doesn't talk.
He's not talking. He just shows up in the ring and he makes you understand that he's the best.
Yeah.
Unlike Crawford and all these others. I'm tired of it. As a fan, I'm tired of watching 1, bad judging, 2, bad reffing, and 3, bad fights. Stuff that is just.
Well, Eric, that makes a good point because Mike, we talked about this earlier and stuff too. With Terrence Crawford looking like, and we've been talking about this for about a year now, about Terrence Crawford possibly making this jump over into PBC. But let's be honest, like you said before, the backdoor stuff. Al Heyman's not the type of guy who's just going to let a guy like Terrence Crawford come in and sit right at the head of the dinner table. It's not going to happen. No. He's going to make him earn his way. But here's another thing that a lot of people aren't talking about. If this supposed fight between Keith Thurman and Ugas gets made, what message does that send to Terrence Crawford that now Keith Thurman has pretty much fought everybody in that division, and this man still continues to be ignored? Because I will guarantee you that will be the balance point that Al Heyman will use to Terrence Crawford. You're not going to get any advantages over Keith Thurman. This is a man who went there with Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. Now he's going to jump in there with Ugas
and Manny Pacquiao.
And who have you yet to do this. Who do you want to do? You want to come in here? Who do you want to fight? Rashadi Ellis? You know, you want to fight here a guy who's 23 and that's going to prove your point? No, it
Amir Khan, I think he'll try.
Doesn't work that way, man. I'm telling you.
No, I think you're right, AJ. I think Al Heyman's going to be of the he's going to be of the old school. Hey, I'm going to dance with who brought me to the dance. And I think the welterweights that have helped him develop the stable that he has and the presence that the PBC has are the guys he's going to remain loyal to. And that's one thing that I've learned just by talking to the fighters behind the scene, guys like Molina and a few other guys that work for TGB. And he says, hey, Al is going to stick with his guys. He's going to give he's not going to go give a $5 million payday to someone like Bud Crawford when he's got someone like Keith Thurman who's fighting everybody that they put in front of him and give him a $2 million payday. It's just not going to happen. He's not going to allow it to happen.
I'll sum it up right here, bro. If Terrence Crawford, I know there's some people in this world, I could be one of them, that they don't see certain things that they do that bug other people and stuff. They're blind to these little ticks and nicks, whatever. But if Terrence Crawford truly can't see that his ring resume is as shoddy and shatty as we all say it, you know, then I'll mail him these because maybe you just need something a little better, dude, to look, because it just doesn't make any sense. You can't tell me that you don't know. I mean, I would be tired of it. I would say, you know what? F that shit. Give me Ugas. Give me this guy. Give me somebody. I don't want to hear this bullshit that I'm seeing where they always seem to find some guy who you kind of scratch your head like, where the hell did that guy come from? And why is he getting a shot? You know? Because Cabo Lucas was just an example of what's going to happen to Terrence Crawford if he continues to go down this road.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, let's do this, guys. Let's what's your dream matchup right now at welterweight? I know a lot of people, a lot of casuals say, oh, Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. What's your dream matchup right now at welterweight? I'll tell you what mine is right now. My dream matchup right now, honestly, is because they have like-minded opponents and they've won in similar fashion. I would love to see Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. I think that would be a
fantastic match.
That'd be a good fight.
Because I think Keith Thurman deserves it.
Right, he's a threat. Keith Thurman's a threat. He's by far. I still consider the biggest puncher in the welterweight division. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's proven against guys like Diego Chavez. For me, is it my turn to pick my match?
Sure.
I'm gonna kind of stray away from the top dogs, and I'm gonna kind of pull in a match that we talked about earlier. I would love to see Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Jamal James. I'll be honest with you. That's just a fan favorite right there. That's the kind of thing that if you found out it was free on ESPN, I'm not moving an inch.
Because in similar fashion, the way that Maurice Hooker stood his ground and landed, and he's a taller, lanky guy, and landed pretty much at will against Jamal. Yeah, Jamal James is a real 147-pounder, and Jamal James has dog in him. That guy surprised me so many times in watching his fights. That guy is tough. He looks like the thin man, like a Maurice Blocker, but he is a fighter, man. That guy is tough and a nice guy and a legitimate top 10 147-pounder, no matter where they have
Paul Williams style knockout power. He reminds me a lot of Paul Williams.
And he's strong, man. He just keeps coming. He doesn't have any quit in him. He's just cut from a different cloth, man. He's bred to be a strong kid, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But like I said, I mean, my only other one on top of that was I would love to see Jerron Ennis and you know, Boots Ennis against one of these top three guys. And I'm saying even Errol Spence. I think Boots Ennis has that kind of talent. I'm not saying he's going to win, but he's very versatile. This is a guy I always talk about, you know, coming to a fight, you know, with a lot of tricks in your bag. Boots Ennis is one of those guys. You know, he's not one dimensional. But I'm sorry, Eric, I cut you off.
It's okay. My fight would be Porter and Ortiz, because I'd like to see Ortiz.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be a great one too.
You know, guys. I mean, and it's easy to forget that one of the actual true belt holders is Manny Pacquiao. Now, Manny Pacquiao apparently is back to training, and I'm hearing that he's going to get the fight against Mikey Garcia is going to get that fight. Mikey Garcia is going to hit the lottery for the third time in a row. Don't understand it, and this is not hating on Mikey Garcia, but Mikey Garcia, you talk about Terrence Crawford never doing anything at 147. Yeah. Mikey Garcia has done nothing. His best win at 147 was against Sergey Lipinets, right?
Yep.
Where he did knock down Lipinets in that fight, but Lipinets came on and made it a tough fight. It was a close decision. He ended up losing, but I just don't understand what the fascination is with Mikey Garcia. Does he really have that much of a pool in terms of, ticket sales, a pay-per-view revenue, viewership? Is this something that I'm missing?
I'm at a loss too, because like I said, I mean, let's be honest. Jesse Vargas should have won that fight, but Jesse Vargas fought the wrong fight for whatever reason. Jesse Vargas forgot what made him so good at the welterweight division, allowed himself to just get outsmarted by a smaller, honestly, just a more incomplete fighter. But the thing was, you go back to the Errol Spence fight. Would you ever want to see a rematch with Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence? Absolutely not. It was
he lost every minute. He lost 36 minutes. He lost 50 seconds of every minute of 36 rounds. I'm sorry, 36 minutes.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Mikey Garcia's got some good victories on his resume.
He does.
Other than Jesse Vargas, he beat Robert Easter Jr., which I was really surprised in the manner in which he beat him. He beat Sergey Lepinets, Adrian Broner, who was just, I don't know what was going on in his head, amongst some other guys. But he just doesn't, honestly, I don't see a lot of fans clamoring and saving their pennies and dimes and nickels for this pay-per-view of Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia. I think it's going to be a hard sell, bro. I think it's going to be a hard sell.
And if it sells, it'll be all Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, people want to see what can Manny Pacquiao do at the age of 40. Does he still? I mean, he looked good in the first 6 rounds against Thurman. Kind of faded a little bit. Thurman actually got razor thin and pulled that fight a lot closer. But I don't know. I still think Manny. I think even if 80% of Manny shows up, I think he has an easy night with Mikey Garcia.
I think Manny knocks out Mikey Garcia because there's no way Mikey Garcia is as durable. Doesn't have the punching power that if Manny Pacquiao was able to withstand the punching power of Keith Thurman, outmaneuver Keith Thurman,
and knock him down,
Mikey Garcia has no chance in hell. There's nothing he could throw at Manny Pacquiao that's even gonna trip him up.
And AJ, you said it best. You said, would anybody be clamoring to see Mikey Garcia fight Errol Spence again?
No,
nobody.
No.
The only person that would like to see Mikey Garcia fight Errol Spence is Mikey's accountant. That's it. Yeah. So with that being said, what does that tell you? That tells you that Mikey Garcia is not a good welterweight. And if the eyes on the prize all lead towards Errol Spence, the A side numero uno of the division, what chance does Mikey Garcia have other than to maybe pick up a vacant title, to fight a one-off, to fight a recently vacated title, or if Errol Spence doesn't want to pay a sanctioning fee to fight some ridiculous mandatory, he gives up one of those belts, and then Mikey gets to fight for it, and then he gets to say, "Oh, I'm a welterweight champion now too." It doesn't make any sense, man. He does not deserve these high-profile fights when you got guys like Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Jamal James, Ugas, Boots Ennis. You got these guys waiting, even Sergey Lipinets. You got these guys waiting in the wings that are like, "Hey, what about me? I'm over here fighting guys that are actually relevant in this division." I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, what's your take on that, Eric?
Well, my whole thing is this, especially when you're bringing up the title belts and whatnot. I'm just kind of tired of all these belts.
Trying to keep track of who's got what. And
geez, Louise. I mean, does the WBA, I'm looking at the boxing scene right now. Do they have 4 belts?
Yeah.
They've got 4 belts.
Yeah, WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO.
Yeah.
Oh, they got the
WBC. The Taco King belt.
No, I'm looking at, look, here. The WBA shows 4.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, WBA has the champion emeritus, in recess, interim. I mean, WBA is the biggest joke.
What the hell? That's just ridiculous.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the situation that happened with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Even though Tyson Fury didn't have an actual belt because it was actually stripped from him, he was still the champion when they did, so they crowned him the lineal champion. That's another thing. I know, I agree. We got to kind of get away from this, but at the end of the day,
the WBA is the worst of all of them.
I'm just going to continue to say, I just don't see the appeal with Mikey Garcia. I don't see it.
So for the welterweight division, we've got 1, 5, 6. We've got 7 belts for the welterweight division. You know what? It's bull crap. Combine them all, put one freaking belt out there.
Yeah, but brother, it's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I know.
That 7's going to go to 8 very soon because the IBO is the WBO 20 years ago. The IBO is making a push. They're starting to get higher profile fighters. They're starting to get their presence on bigger cards. The IBO will be a belt that will be added to the mix very soon. Because I remember for a long time, AJ, it was just the 3. It was the WBA, WBC, and IBF, and then the WBO was.
What happened to my favorite belt, dude? The USBA, dude. What happened to that belt, dude?
Yeah, that's more of a state title, right?
I know. I love that belt, dude.
The WC has the Continental Championship. You got the Silver Championship and all this nonsense, but whatever.
So you could have. I mean, you're going to have
nonsense.
If what'd you say? IBA, IBF,
IBO. I think is
IBO. If the IBO, you're going to have 8 champions in one division.
So that's insane, man.
It's stupid.
Yeah. I think the real champion at 147 for the WBA is Manny Pacquiao. He beat the man that had the legitimate belt in Keith Thurman. Right?
It started, honestly, it started to remind me of, and I don't like to talk about him, but the whole UFC thing. Because let's be honest, UFC, their middleweight champion isn't considered a high-ranking person, let's say Bellator or KDOC or one of these other ones. So you got all these middleweight champions, but who's really the true middleweight champion? You don't know because always these organizations are going to fight with each other.
They don't. Well, these organizations don't fight.
Yeah,
like you'll never see a guy from Bellator fighting in UFC.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's going to eventually get that. If that's the way the ground we're going down right now, it's almost like you're going to create these interim divisions within a division. So you're going to have a champion, and he'll have his rankings, and another champion in his rankings, another champion in his ranking. It's getting ridiculous, man.
Dude, these guys make the old professional wrestling from 20 years ago look like they had their shit together because you only had 2 champions. You had the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and you had Hulk Hogan. You didn't have a third guy out there running around. I guess you did.
Yeah, they did Continental.
No, but that was considered like a lower division. But you did have the the AWA champion in I don't know who it was at the time. Jerry the King Lawler was the champion of the AWA for years, right? And then you had Ric Flair was NWA, Hulk Hogan WWF, which turned into the WWE. Man, it's boxing has even surpassed all that.
But you know what? At the end of the day,
Jake,
I do like the fact that we're starting to see some good key matchups and stuff coming together. Like I said, I was very surprised about the Maurice Hooker. I was surprised that Maurice Hooker actually even got the fight. So that showed a lot on Virgil Ortiz's part. We're going to see some other good fights here coming up here pretty soon and stuff. But I also saw that Terrence Crawford, if he doesn't get this 154 fight against Manny Pacquiao like he wants, it looks like he's focusing his attention on newly crowned champion Brian Castano. Who in this
Terrence Crawford?
Terrence Crawford. The reason being, and it was actually spoken out, Jamal Charlo, who's the 154-pound champion, actually spoke out against Crawford that no one's going to basically come out there and take the light, the kind of like the light side, the easy side of the road to get a championship in his division. You know what I'm saying? So if he's looking to fight somebody at 154, Charlo was like, I'm right here. Now, let's be honest. People can say whatever they want to say, love or hate Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo will eat Terrence Crawford for lunch. Okay? He's a big man. Terrence Crawford has never fought a big man who's
Terrence Crawford's a small welterweight. He was a good sized junior welterweight, but he's a small welterweight. Yeah. He's not a big welterweight.
The only way he's got a chance in hell is if he tries to do what Manny Pacquiao did to so many fighters for so many years and stuff. He tries to get Jamal to come down to say like 149 pounds or something like this, that he can't make,
Yeah, or like Floyd did to Canelo, 152, or, so many other times they fought at catch weights. There should be no more catch weight fights for these legitimate titles. No. Well, I also read, AJ, I don't know if I told you this, but I also read that, and this is a whole nother topic we can go down for a few minutes if you guys want. I also read something where Terrence Crawford was questioning Canelo's unwillingness to face African-American fighters, black fighters, which I thought was completely out of left field, which is, I don't think Canelo Alvarez won't even acknowledge him. He doesn't get caught up in this talk.
Good.
When it's fight time and time to train, he'll answer questions, but he doesn't waste his time disrespecting other fighters. He just lets us talk. Like you said, Eric, he just lets his fighting do the talking. At this point, I just think really Terrence Crawford would serve himself.
Just shut up.
To just keep Canelo's name out of his mouth.
Well, you know what, Mike? I'm going to tell you right now. In the world of boxing, true boxing fans, if you're writing the Crawford training, if you're listening to the rhetoric that Crawford's putting out there, especially against an elite champion in Canelo Alvarez, I'm going to tell you what you're going to lose. You're going to lose the opportunity to watch good fights, because if the future of boxing looks like Terrence Crawford's resume, then you might as well start looking for a new sport. If it goes about the ways of Canelo Alvarez, you're going to see a champion who goes out and takes risks. Who would ever think that a guy like Canelo Alvarez would fight a guy like, Kovalov or one of these guys at 175? I mean, let's be honest. Those are the kind of things that don't happen. So Terrence Crawford, a guy who is, when he does venture out, he ventures out soft. You look at his ring resume and who he's fought. But, you go back and you look at Canelo Alvarez and you look at his ring resume and who he's beaten who are African-American fighters. When did Daniel Jacobs, as far as I know, he's a black fighter. He's one of the top guys that was fighting inside there. Here's a guy that fought Erice Lara. Maybe he's not what they consider African-American, but here's a guy that nobody wanted to fight. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Canelo,
and he took that fight very early in his career.
Yeah, Canelo doesn't care what color a fighter is. He just looks at the boxer himself. Unfortunately, Terrence Crawford's starting to do that. So this is, I think, going to be a basis. I would be very surprised to see Terrence Crawford fight another white fighter, since he's kind of going down that BLM route. And I'm not saying anything against him, because
the victim mentality. It's the victim mentality. Oh, he won't fight me because I'm black.
I don't want to. The thing is, this gets back to our debate, and I'm going to try to get off subject. Who the best in boxing is right now, and at the end of the day, it's the guy who's going to risk the most, and that's Canelo Alvarez. He's got a fight coming up against Billy Joe Saunders. I actually went back and watched some of Saunders' fights just to kind of refresh my memory. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think Canelo Alvarez is going to completely humiliate Billy Joe Saunders in a dramatic fashion. I don't think Canelo likes Billy Joe Saunders. I think Canelo's going to make an example out of Billy Joe Saunders. He's going to basically tell his wife, heat up my food, I'll be right back. That kind of fight. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you right now, let's see Terrence Crawford do that against a guy who's legitimate. He says that shit about Errol Spence, but him and Errol Spence are friends. Let's see him say that about Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, or one of these other guys. You don't see that talk. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? And Billy Joe Saunders is a legitimate middleweight. He's a legitimate middleweight contender, current champion. I mean,
168.
He's two-time champion, right?
Yeah, 168.
He's legitimate. He's a legitimate guy. I don't know, man. I mean, he's a southpaw. He's unpredictable. You never know which kind of guy you're going to get. There's a guy that, like we said it a second ago, Bud, just leave Canelo's name out of your mouth, because Canelo doesn't play that nonsense. No. He just doesn't. He's the kind of guy that, as cool as he is, he'll slap you in the face right in front. I know he will. That machismo, he won't tolerate that. Yeah. He just will not.
You saw that against Callum Smith. There was a lot of talk. I mean, Callum Smith, he wasn't talk, but Callum Smith made some very bold statements that Canelo was biting off way too much. Even Eddie Hearn made those statements, and a few other people. And you saw what Canelo did to Callum Smith. It was
he gave him a he'll never be the same after that beating.
No, and everybody was talking about this is a guy who was the best at 168, even above David Benavidez, above Plant, above Billy Joe Saunders, above everybody. And people just forget that. And now right away, Canelo's going to fight like, oh, I got to climb the ladder again to get to Billy Joe Saunders. He's going to make an example out of Saunders. He's going to try to unify the title. Like I said, the only thing that I think that Canelo needs to avoid is David Benavidez. With the exception of that, it's open field.
Yeah. That fight, if that fight with Plant ever does materialize, that will be another Callum Smith type beating.
Yeah.
Caleb Plant will have his little flashes of this and that, because he can box. I'm not gonna say Caleb's not a good boxer, but he's not durable enough. And once Canelo starts to reach him and starts tearing up that body and landing those big thudding shots, yeah, it's all downhill from there for Caleb Plant.
Oh yeah, and there's another person too who we talked about, Mike. And the sad thing is, I like the guy, and that's Andrade. Andrade's getting a lot of heat right now about his choice in Liam Williams right now on this fight coming up right now. Don't get me wrong. Liam Williams is a tough guy, but he is nowhere near. Mike Huppler and a few other people, even your guy Mike Montero made some comments. This guy is not an elite fighter. He's not a guy that you would even consider, one of the top guys. As a matter of fact, he was actually being tossed around as a possible opponent for Jaime Munguia. You know what I'm saying? Before all this stuff went down and stuff. Because I know Munguia and them were trying to get something going with another guy who doesn't seem very interested in fighting anybody except for his obsession, and that's Triple G and Canelo. You know what I'm saying? For Canelo. I mean, he doesn't seem to be interested in fighting anybody. So
yeah, at this point, the doors are closing and the window is getting very, very small for Triple G. He's never going to get Canelo back in the ring. Canelo's not coming back down to 160. Triple G hasn't shown any desire to move up 8 pounds. That fight's just not going to happen. As far as I'm concerned, Triple G, maybe, you know, Munguia, who is now signed to fight the Polish fighter, Shalecki, he gets through that fight. Maybe him and Triple G get it on sometime in the September, maybe, because I believe the Munguia fight is signed for April the 24th. I believe it's going to be in Texas.
I'll tell you who I think, and there's rumor, it's under the rumor mill right now. Triple G is going to get Chris Eubanks Jr. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not real high on Chris Eubanks Jr. To me, I see a lot of flaws in this guy. This is a guy who's already shown the mediocre side of himself. And if Triple G does take this fight and fight against Chris Eubanks Jr., a guy who lost to George Groves, who was one of his victims, it kind of shows you where he's at. And to me, a fighter should start losing brownie points. You start losing that credibility to say, I'm the man. When you pick an opponent that you know you're going to beat, it's an easy pick in a sense.
Yeah.
And the threats are out there. You got Charlo, you got Munguia, you got a lot of guys out there and stuff, you know, and it doesn't make any sense, you know, why he would go after the lesser of the evils and stuff in a sense, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to see more and more of that, where I don't see that in Canelo. People are trying to say like Canelo picks people at the right time. Well, I didn't realize Billy Joe Saunders was over the hill. I didn't realize Canelo had nothing to do with Billy Joe Saunders' past, you know, transgressions. That
Callum Smith was not over the hill. He was considered,
Callum Smith was the man. You know, I didn't see anybody knocking on Sergey Kovalov's door to say, hey, dude, I want to come fight you. Last I saw, guys like Marcus Brown and other guys didn't want to have anything to do with them. But Canelo goes up there and knocks the guy out and gets no credit, you know?
Hey, so what about the 31st, the Tim Tszyu fight?
Yeah.
That one's coming up. That's a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
A week from tomorrow. Tim Tszyu, Dennis Hogan. I've been following Tim Tszyu on social media for a while, and he's doing a lot of strength and conditioning now, really trying to grow into that 154-pound frame. Because there was a couple fights ago, I think I even said this to you, AJ. I think Tim can get down to 147. You know,
I think he can too, man. I tell you right now.
But I tell you what though, but in his recent training footage that I saw, he's working with a strength and conditioning coach now. This is his third fight, and he's packing on the muscle now, especially in the shoulders and the back. You know, he doesn't have that bodybuilder type physique like a Sean Porter, but he's developing the perfect frame for boxing. And I tell you what, if he makes short work of Dennis Hogan or is able to do to Dennis Hogan what he did to Jeff Horn, I'm telling you, man, there's a guy that a lot of people are going to want to stay away from.
I think the only person I see that will actually step up to the challenge, and I'm going to say it again, you know what I'm saying, love him or hate him, that's Jamel Charlo. Charlo's a guy who's not going to sway away from a challenge and stuff like that. There's not the problem that's going on right now in the 154-pound division. It's another division that's kind of thinning out. Some of their best prospects have moved up to either retired or moved up.
Well, maybe that's why Danny Garcia is talking about going to 154.
Yeah, because it's really,
it could be wide open.
Well, yeah, it's really thinned out. I mean, if you just look at the top 10 right now, obviously, you know, you got Jamel Charlo, Brian Castano, Ericse Lara, who's been around. He's starting to get a little long in the tooth. Michael Soro, then you got Liam Smith, Tim Tszyu at number 6, Erickson Lubin. I don't understand why they got him at 154. He's actually a 160-pounder now. You got Jared Hurd, a guy who's completely been forgotten about. He's a monster at 154. Can he still make 154? Then you got Jack Cutney, and then I don't know why Jeff Horn's in at number 10. That's a whole
Jack Kulke, Jack Kulke. Yeah. I saw an interview with Tim Tszyu just today, and he said the one thing that I showed against Jeff Horn and why I'm going to continue to show, it's not even just I beat these guys with my boxing ability. I beat these guys with physicality. They're not stronger than me. And that's where I think we said this after that fight. And a fighter like Jeff Horn really has his way with bullying people and bum rushing and elbows and shoulders. He was not allowed to move Tim Tszyu at all. Tim Tszyu, his feet were in concrete. He refused to let him relent 1 inch. And that's what I think he's going to do with Dennis Hogan. Dennis Hogan's a physically strong guy too. You know, he's a strong guy. He's a guy who's got some experience. He fought the bigger Charlo at 160. Now he's back down at 154. He fought Munguia at 154 in a fight that, you know, not to make any excuses, but Jaime really didn't have a good camp for that fight. But that's experience, you know, because Munguia is a big guy and a big puncher, and so is Jamal Charlo. So if Tim Tszyu can go out there and look devastating against Dennis Hogan, wow.
I think Dennis Hogan is going to serve himself because he's another guy that kind of feeds into his energy. And if he tries to make it into a slugging match with Tim Tszyu, he doesn't have the power that Tim Tszyu has. But I don't see even Tim Tszyu allowing himself to get into a slugging thing. I think he's going to go out there and be a tactician. He's going to go out there and want to show different sides of who he is, not just go in there and be a guy like an Edgar Beranga and knock a guy out. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it really doesn't show anything. But when a guy goes out there and systematically breaks the guy down from the top to the bottom, and vice versa, and then ends him in dramatic fashion, that's when you know you got something special.
Yeah. You're right. And he's very patient. So I think he might understand that, hey, maybe I'm not going to go out there and get this guy out in 2-3 rounds, but I think he'll systematically break him down. That's a fight I'm excited for. And that's on a Wednesday in Australia. So it's going to be probably
don't forget on Thursday. There's a fight on Thursday. Amanda Serrano is fighting on Thursday.
This Thursday on Ring City. Yeah. Coming live from Puerto Rico.
Female boxer in boxing right now, probably in history, is Amanda Serrano. Say what you want to say about Amanda Serrano, but she is an amazing fighter.
She's got true knockout power. True knockout power, and very, very skilled. Very, very skilled. I'm excited for that fight. That's this Thursday, right?
Yeah, and the girl she's fighting against too, Daniela Bermudez, she's a tough girl too. I mean, she's a girl who she doesn't have quite the power that Serrano has and stuff like this, but I saw some film on her and stuff like this, and she's like a little pocket rocket. I mean, she comes in and she's gonna do the one thing that Serrano's shown a vulnerability for in the past. And that is when she fights a strong fighter that gets her back up against the ropes. Serrano likes to keep the fight in the middle of the ring. If Bermudez can get Serrano's back at 41 years old against the ropes, who knows what could happen?
Yeah. Serrano's more of a skilled boxer puncher. And she doesn't really like to get, like you said, get roughed up along the ropes and stuff. So,
but she can, if she had to and stuff like that. You got to get a chance, Eric. You get a chance. Go back and watch some of Amanda's fights. You would have. Well, and then also on the 27th, we got the rematch. Povetkin.
This coming weekend, Povetkin versus Dillian White in a rematch. A fight where in the first fight, Dillian White win by, was it a 5th round? Devastating knockout. He was losing the fight, had been dropped once was it twice? Once or twice? He was in typical Povetkin form, just, you'd never know what to expect from the guy other than he's going to be consistent. He's either be consistently good or consistently bad. He just was not really doing much the first 3-4 rounds, except taking punches by a guy that is limited as they come in the heavyweight division, Dillian White. And he ended up knocking Dillian White cold. Maybe the same thing happens in the rematch. I don't know. And along those same lines, I don't know if you guys saw this, but once again, Eddie Hearn digs open, and they should call him the grave digger. Eddie Hearn.
I know what you're gonna bring up right now, Saki Bika.
No. Derek Chisora is fighting Joseph Parker Jr. I could not believe when I said that. I said, "Is this a fight that happened 3 years ago?" I feel like the fight's happened before. Why does Derek Chisora continue to get fight after high pro? And Joseph Parker, at this point, you're doing yourself no justice by beating a Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora has lost every meaningful fight he's ever fought.
Well, Joseph Parker, to me, is no better. I mean, he's become such a lackadaisical fighter. I mean, honestly, it's just going to be a snooze fest.
It's going to be a snooze. You're going to have to probably pay me to tune in to watch that fight, because I have. I know what you were talking about. You were talking about Sakio Bika's fighting Sam Solomon.
Oh my God!
And that's on the undercard of the Tim Tszyu fight.
Well, I was going to bring up too. We didn't get a chance because we didn't have our one show, but what our biggest fears happened. And fight was the Rafa and Mudin. Mudin was crushed in the first round. Hopefully, man, they don't allow this guy to fight anymore. He really needs to get out of boxing. He's done.
He said he's done, but he said that before. He's 47 years old. Michael Zarafa immediately, once again, starts calling out Tim Tszyu because he knows he knows that's his biggest payday. And Tim Tszyu was questioned about that today as well. And Tim Tszyu just gave this look like, it's embarrassing. Anthony Mundine is a grandfather. He's 47 years old. He said that they approached him for a potential fight against Mundine. He said he wouldn't even consider it. He said
his ass,
he said he has too much respect for Mundine, who was a legend. He was a legend in the NRL. He was a legend. He was a former world champion. A native Australian Aboriginal descent. Checked off a lot of boxes. So Michael Zarafa taking that fight and acting like, I mean, it's funny. After the fight, he acted like, well, that was the only fight I could get, or that's the biggest high profile fight I could get. Well, if that's the true, you got bigger problems than Tim Tszyu.
Well, that's the only fight you get when you lose a decision to a guy like Jeff Horn. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But
got dropped viciously by Jeff Horn.
Yeah.
In that 9th round, viciously. It's a miracle. Busted up, bloodied up by Jeff Horn.
Well, like I said, a lot of these, and Eric, we were talking about this earlier. A lot of these decisions, I mean, honestly, if I'm PBC, I'm not going to try to pick on the PBC right now, but whether it be, you know, whatever banner it is, you know, they really got to get these matchmakers to start kind of get their heads. I understand there's a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of red tape that you got to cut through and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're not doing it justice when you got a guy like Boudin fighting a guy like Zarafa, or better yet, at a higher profile fight. I'm going to keep going back. This Liam Williams fight against, you know, Andrade just really, really gets under my skin, because Andrade's been a guy who's been clamoring, I'm the best. Nobody wants to fight me. And this is all you get.
Yeah, but he's not a PBC guy, Andrade.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
he's
whatever
match room.
Yeah, I'm just saying whatever the thing is.
Look at, man,
makes sense.
I'm not a fan of Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, as far as I'm concerned, of all the big promoters, puts on the worst fights. I just think he puts on the worst fights. He does. I mean, like you said, he's got Andrade. How he's even allowing Andrade to fight this fight again. And I know why it is. It's because Liam Williams is a countryman of his. Eddie Hearn is always going to put his countryman first. He keeps digging Derek Chisora up out of the grave, right?
But,
you know, propping him back up.
There's something I thought about right now. Eddie Hearn hasn't made the best decisions when it's come to some of his things. Josh Warrington. You know, he pulled the kid out of Mexico thinking that this Lara was going to be easy pickings. Maybe he ends up putting, because the one thing Liam Williams does have, he's got some power. Andrade's been a bit inactive and stuff, and has shown a vulnerability to kind of get rocked. What happens if Eddie Hearn loses that piece too? What happens if Liam Williams shocks Andrade and stuff?
Then I think Andrade just becomes a distant memory that people go, oh, he was a champion? Because up until this point, he's held the belt for multiple years and has never been in one high-profile, meaningful fight his entire career.
Mandatories?
Yeah, apparently mandatories don't exist. You know, if your name is Demetrius Andrade, I don't know.
He would be a good commentator, though. He'd be a great commentator.
Yeah, he'd be a good commentator. Yeah, yeah, he would.
So what else? What other fights we got coming up this week?
I think that's it for this week. Well, like I said, we got Thursday with Serrano. We got this weekend's fight with Dillian White, Povetkin. The following Wednesday, we have Tim Tszyu against Dennis Hogan, which, you know, it's a shame that fight's on a Wednesday. It should be on a Saturday on ESPN where more people could tune in. But I do believe you're going to be able to stream it somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
The Tim Tszyu fight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll probably take place sometime Tuesday morning early here in America, because it's going to be Wednesday evening on Australia. And I believe right now the time difference is 16 hours, I think.
Oh, hey, real quick. Let's talk a little bit about Arthur Beterbiev fight over the weekend.
Artur Beterbiev. Or Turbiev, or whatever you want to call it.
I'm going to call him Johnny Robot. Right? Johnny Robot.
Well, we're going to have differing opinions on this because we talked at one. Look at, I saw, and this is what kills me. This kills me when I make the mistake of reading the comment section of whether it's a YouTube video or even something on Facebook or whatever. When so-called boxing fans talk about Artur Beterbiev and his resume and this and that and blah blah blah. Artur Beterbiev has a name on his resume, a guy that he busted up, that sent into an early retirement, named Gvozdyk, who was a Ukrainian, undefeated, world-class, world champion, and he beat him into submission and ended his career.
It was a great fight.
Gvozdyk will never fight again. Beterbiev, yes, he was a bit robotic. By his own admission, he said the time out of the ring was not good. He had 17 months out of the ring.
Yeah.
He had not fought a long time. But that man is hard as freaking nails.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. I think the guy is extremely strong. I just don't think he's highly skilled. He's got terrible footwork. He's slow. He gets hit a lot. I know, like I said, I mean, against a smaller guy, even a Canelo Alvarez and stuff, he should win. He's this bigger, stronger guy. But we've seen this in the past, that being the bigger, stronger guy doesn't always mean you're going to win. You got to have skill. And I just saw, I mean, the one thing that Danes remind me of at certain moments was a smaller version. Well, I mean, it was a version of like a Canelo Alvarez, a guy who moved. Whenever the guy moved into punches, he was successful against Arturo. But I'm going to go back again. He's not going to be the guy who I think, okay, let's be honest. David Benavidez, if he does venture to 175 pounds, no one's going to make short work of Benavidez. All right. He's a tough guy. He's a guy who can probably beat anybody. But if somebody's going to go in there just based on the fact that he's a more higher skilled person, it's going to be a guy like David Benavidez, who moves better, faster, just those punches at better angles.
But Beterbiev gets hit a lot too. He got hit a lot versus Beterbiev got hit. Benavidez. He got hit a lot versus Ellis.
Yeah, we've never seen Benavidez on the ground though. We've seen Beterbiev on the ground. He's been dropped.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, the thing is, he doesn't have a cast iron chin. You know, so I mean, honestly, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I'm just not overly impressed with him. I don't see him being the guy he's not going to be the next Roy Jones Jr. He's not going to be a guy who's going to control 175 pounds. I think.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. He's the reason why Andre Ward retired.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Point blank, period. Ask any boxing writer, ask anybody that knows boxing. Andre Ward saw the writing on the wall and said, I'm done. I don't need to keep fighting these guys that are coming up. Even the Voziks, the Dimitri Bivol. Guys that
were coming in were just monsters.
I think the thing about Beterbiev, he's not flashy. He's not flashy. In fact, I think I texted you guys that German Dane or whatever, he came to fight. He was biting down and standing and landing some shots, but
just didn't have any power.
Just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and breaks you down. And I think I see a similar outcome even against Dimitri Bivol, who to me is a small 175 pounds.
Too small.
Now that's a fight that they're talking about making, you know, the two Russians, Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol. And I see the same thing happen. I think Dimitri looks good in the early rounds, 6 rounds. He looks good, whatever. But I think Beterbiev just continues to break him down, and gets a late stoppage.
The 175
he's not exciting, but he's just durable.
Like a Chinese water torture. It just keeps.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at that 175 pounds right now. I mean, they still got Kobolov up there. Nobody really knows.
Yeah, 175 pounds is a little lacking right now, and it's a shame. It's a shame because there's some good fighters there. Bivol is another really good fighter.
I'll tell you,
I believe owns the belt.
Fight I would like to see with Bivol that I think would be an interesting fight. I'm not saying that this guy's going to beat him, but I think it would be an interesting fight because the guy's tough as nails, but he brings something that people hasn't seen in a lot of fights, and that's a guy who actually brings some power and some grit, and that would be Badu Jack. I would honestly like to see it. I know some people are going to say whatever. I would like to see it.
Badu Jack against Bivol or Beterbiev?
Beterbiev.
Oh,
I'd like to see it because he's a more skilled fighter. He's a guy that actually brought his power up to 175 pounds. The fight that happened with Marcus Brown, he was actually having his way until that grotesque thing that happened on his head. You saw in Badu Jack's last fight, you know, I mean, he's a guy that brings skill, but he brings pop, you know?
Yeah. And Badu fought his last fight. It was like at a cruiserweight, right? He fought like 190 something. Yeah.
Yeah. And he went up there. So, I mean, he's a guy who's strong, who's able to do those kind of things. It's an interesting matchup. I just don't want to see this guy fighting against, you know, the Leon Buns that are you know, that are Anthony Yarde. We don't need guys like that. I want to see him. There's not a whole lot of good fighters in that division. He beats Bivol because Bivol's too small. Joe Smith Jr., I just don't know with this guy. You know,
Joe Smith does have a good punch, though. Joe Smith's got a good punch.
Pascal's got a great punch. Look what he did to Marcus Brown. You just never know.
Yeah. That Joe Smith fight is, I think, Joe Smith's fight was rescheduled. I think it's coming up in April. And then they're saying if that happens, then him and Beterbiev possibly getting in the ring. And that's a fight I'm kind of torn on because I like Beterbiev, but I like Joe Smith's story, man. A workman-like guy, you know, just a guy that still works a 40-hour-a-week job and is just tough as nails, man.
Yeah.
And does have that punch, man. He does have that
he does. Knock Bernard Hopkins. I was listening to this thing the other day, and I hope I get the gentleman's name right. There was an old fighter from the 1800s, from the late 1800s going to the 1900s, a guy named Eddie Misk. He was a middleweight. He was a guy that had a lot of success in boxing, but it was during bad times. He was diagnosed with a condition where the doctor basically told him he had to quit boxing, and he only had about 5 years to live. Unfortunately, he had a dealership. He had some other things. He had a lot of debt. He had a family. So he continued to fight up until the day he died, when he actually was thrust into a fight for a large amount of money that he knew would pay off his debt and take care of his family, and he ends up winning this fight. He crushes the guy, and he died shortly after that. And so, what happened to the guys like that? What happened to the guys that actually they believe the story and why they get there? When I see a guy like Joe Smith lose to a fighter that I know he should have walked through. Somewhere along the storyline, he forgot the struggles, the hunger, the desire, and those long, treacherous days in the gym.
Yeah. Joe Smith threw a clunker out there, right?
Yeah.
Who was it? Refresh my memory who he lost to.
Pascal.
Yeah, John Pascal. Yeah, he should have won that fight.
Well, and the Bivol fight too, when he lost it in the Bivol fight, he didn't come to fight. I mean, here's a guy that goes out there and looks amazing against a tough guy like Jesse Hart, beats Bernard Hopkins, and then loses to Sullivan Barrera. That's who it was, Sullivan Barrera.
Sullivan Barrera, that's right.
I mean, I don't even know where that guy's even at anymore. I mean,
yeah, I don't even know Barrera's still fighting. You're right. So, like you said, I mean, I guess it just depends on whichever Joe Smith shows up. If those big fights are made,
Hey guys, can I make a suggestion for the next show?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know about you guys. Half the time I'm like muting the damn television because the announcers are just so biased one way or the other.
Oh, I know. Or just clueless. Like,
yeah.
What was that guy's name? Grisham.
Don't watch Sky
and
Sports.
Maddox.
Don't watch Sky Sports.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's just, it's brutal to watch. You know, you got one guy, even if he does something good, they're saying, oh, well, it wasn't as good as you think it was. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah. That's their MO. They're just, they have a narrative. They're trying to, a script almost that they're following.
Well, the zone's making a lot of bad choices right now. Obviously they got that Acker Barak, but those two guys that know nothing about boxing, but for some reason, they're considered an authority. They got their team.
They get to interview fighters, so that's the extent of their credentials. Well, I got to talk to so and so, and I interviewed so and so, and I read the 6 questions that were
in a situation they don't know what to say.
They know nothing about boxing.
And then you got Sergio Mora with Chris Mannix. I mean, there's another. I mean, Sergio Mora was a fighter, but he wasn't a tough guy. He wasn't.
Mora wasn't that bad this past weekend. Mora was okay. No. He was actually giving Hooker some props. And he actually had times when the tide was turning. He actually even said it, man, he's all Hookers, whatever. But the other two guys, one guy comes from the WWE, the wrestling thing. Okay, that's all you need to know.
Chris Mannix gave every round to Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah, Chris Mannix knows nothing about boxing.
Nothing about boxing.
I don't know where he comes from. I mean, maybe he was a guy that covered baseball or hockey or field hockey. I don't know, but the guy knows nothing about boxing. He wouldn't know a headgear from a cup. He doesn't know anything, that guy.
I honestly think one day Sergio Mora is going to punch the guy, because the guy's always throwing these little snide remarks at Mora, and him and Mora kind of got in a heated thing on that fight with the Argentinian kid. I can't remember what it was, and he said something about what the other guy needed to do, and Mora was like, no. It's like, he was basically, Mora sounds like, dude, you've never boxed before. I'm telling you right now, what I'm saying is right, because I've been in a fight and this is what can happen.
Yeah.
Those kind of conversations got to stop. You don't see that shit in baseball. That'd be like, I'm not a big baseball guy, so are you going to let me call the fucking World Series? I'll be like, all right, number 32 is coming up.
Yeah. And then you're going to tell Vin Scully, Vin Scully, who's probably caught a million games in his life. You're going to tell him his business.
Yeah.
It's just,
that's what it's come down to.
Yeah, that's what it's come down to. I don't know how they select these personalities, I don't understand it, Hey,
real quick too. I got to catch a fight the other day that I completely forgot about. Sometimes you find a fight on YouTube, you're like, God, I completely forgot about this fight. If you get a chance, go back and watch Paulie Maldonado versus Miguel Cotto. Wow. What a fight, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. Great fight. Dude, Paulie Maldonado, he was in that fight. I mean, probably one of the, considering the guy that got a broken orbital bone, his face was grotesque, and he fought, man. That was a great fight.
Yeah, he did. Hey, I know what I wanted to talk about. Let's end on this really quick.
Sure.
We'll just make it brief because we're already over by about 15 minutes. Last week's Ring City card, we didn't get to touch base on. Did you see Albert Machado get knocked out by the kid from TJ, the kid that trains with Fernando Fernandez, who's the real trainer of Jaime Munguia right now? It's not Eric Morales. It's Fernando Fernandez. He was out here in California working with Robert and stuff for Jaime's last 2 fights. That Mexican kid got up off the canvas 2 times and knocked Machado out with a left hook. I don't know what to say about Machado. This is his 3rd time now suffering a devastating knockout. Twice to Concio and now this.
Machado is
Alberto Machado. He was back in Puerto Rico. He's no longer training here at Wildcard with Freddie Roach. He's back home. He won his last fight. He looked great in this fight. He dropped that guy twice, but something happens, man. He gets around the 4th, 5th round, and he figures, hey, I've thrown a lot of hard punches, and this guy's still here. And this guy landed one left hook on Machado and put him out.
Yeah,
he was struggling to even regain, even get halfway up, and the referee just jumped in. And this was in Puerto Rico, so it wasn't like the Mexican kid got any favors. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Machado, where do you go from here? That's your third devastating knockout loss in a fight that you should have won against the guy that really was a late sub. He was a late sub. He was training for another fight in TJ and got the call on less than 2 weeks' notice. Hops on a plane, flies from TJ to Puerto Rico to fight this fight. And now has a version of the WBC. It's
the guy that knocked him out before, Cotto. What was his first name? It slips me right now. The one Machado.
Cancio,
yeah. What was his?
He's only 2 losses.
What's his first name? No, I forgot his first name.
Well, he goes by Chongo, right? Cancio.
Yeah,
Andrew Cancio.
Andrew Cancio.
The guy that works full time for the power department or something like that, and he's like
that fight was over here at Fantasy Springs.
They fought twice.
Yeah. I'll tell you the first one when Cancio beat him. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is his, like I said, now this is his 3rd devastating knockout loss. I think it's about time for Alberto Machado to think about something else, man.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because here's a guy that just came with so much hype out of the amateurs. I mean, this is a guy who was like, all the things that he had done coming into boxing and stuff, and looked like he was, what kind of reminds me of? The kid that fought against Nakatani, who lost recently.
We're getting old. We're getting old.
No.
No. You know what I'm talking about? Nakatani, the kid from the Puerto Rican kid who fought against Nakatani. The one who the Nakatani who lost to Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of the kid though. The kid that he beat Nakatani, right? Stopped Nakatani late, right?
No. Nakatani won.
Yeah, Nakatani won. Yeah.
Yeah, but that same guy, I'm kind of reminds me of what's going on with Machado. You know what I'm saying? A guy who, had all this talent and all this thing, and it's just, here it is. But yeah, suffering a 3rd loss like that, especially against a guy that you're supposed to beat that was a late substitute. Yeah. I think, like I said, I think it might be time for Machado the people around him to really just have that talk with them. Yeah. And at 30 years old now, the clock's ticking. I mean,
yeah,
it's unfortunate. There's some guys that just don't get to that next level. It was like that girl that was fighting on the undercard this week. The De La Hoya's girl out of LA.
Senicia Estrada?
Yeah, Estrada. She calls herself Super Bad. And the thing was, they made a comment that it was, I can't remember who they said it was. They said it was De La Hoya or somebody was like that, like their nickname or something like this. I mean, don't get me wrong. The girl did what she had to do. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like her tactics. She fought
a smaller fighter.
She's another one. And I made that argument. Why are you moving from 112 pounds down to 105 pounds?
108.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Why are you going to do that when there's so much competition at 112 pounds, but you're going to go down and beat on a little girl and stuff?
No, she's not. She's, and she beat that girl. She beat that girl from Mexico. It was a good fight. But she really is. I mean, you could see she's a chip off the old block. You could see that she's a bit of a loose cannon and could be disrespectful. You could see it. You could see that she's got that in her. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really high on Senicia Estrada at all. I think the fight she should have had was the rematch of the fight she had earlier that ended in a head clash. But she made every excuse in the world why that rematch can't take place. She said something like, well, that girl's up there fighting it this way now, so she's showing she doesn't want to fight me. It's like, well, you're going down in weight, so what's different? So she goes up 4 pounds, you go down 4 pounds, so you're both basically running away from the division that you guys were supposed to fight at 112. Just ridiculous. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. But not overly impressed with her.
Yeah, I didn't like the attitude. I didn't like her tactics and what she was doing. If she was actually in there with a girl that actually had a punch and had a little bit more speed and stuff, she's gonna find herself in trouble. You're not gonna be able to get away with those goofy tactics that she was doing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get it, what she was trying to do, but it is what it is.
Anyways, I guess we can end it on that, guys. We're over about.
I got a
about
surprise for you at the end.
What is it?
We're done. What's the end?
Just let's go. I got a surprise for you at the end.
What is it?
All right. Well,
you'll see.
Oh, okay. So what do you mean the end? When we sign off?
Yeah, we sign off.
We're signing off from WKRP in Cincinnati. No, that's it, guys. I guess we'll be back on Sunday to talk. Oh no, wait a minute. You're going to be out of town, so are we going to do the shows?
I'll be doing the show live with Eric the Red.
Live on location. Okay. Well, I'll see you guys on Sunday. I'll see you at band rehearsal. I think tomorrow.
I'll see you at band rehearsal tomorrow.
So yeah, that's it for all. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends, check us out, chat with us in the chat. Give us a little bit of love. For all of us at Enter the Ring, we will see you guys on Sunday, 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on the same Bat channel.